First off, I want to say that next week we're gonna, for everybody watching at home, we're gonna be having a sponsorship, which I'm super, super, super excited for. So be looking out for that specifically. It's going to be for Conflict of Nations.
I didn't have their audio on for you the whole
so please
time.
be looking for that at
completely
home.
forgot. They've been talking
very
for like
excited
5 minutes.
And for everybody who's already subscribed or going to subscribe today, I thank you in advance. Okay, so welcome to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable. Before I have anybody introduce themselves, let me lay out the rules for you. The first rule, of course, is that you do not violate Twitch terms of service. That means no racial slurs, anything like that, or anything that could be conceived as a threat of violence. So let's say that you really want to talk to counterpoints about what you want to do in the alleyway after stream. Please do that private call afterwards, not here. Here, we got to make sure that we can keep a source of income for all of us, okay? That's the first rule. The second rule is when I'm talking, no one else is talking. I'm a law and order moderator, and you're all my rioters that I need to keep in line, okay? So please, for the love of God, do not talk while I'm talking. And the main reason why is because I'm not trying to give my opinion. I'm just trying to moderate to make sure that it's not too chaotic and everybody gets to chime in. Now, my third rule, and this is something I think everybody here who's been here before is familiar with, is I know that not everybody is used to a panel format or sharing the stage with these many people, and it can be difficult to get your way in. And so I have something for people who are getting adjusted. If you raise your hand, I will write your name down and make sure that eventually, now you're going to have to wait because I want to let the flow of conversation to happen. Vaush?
Yes.
Mute yourself?
Mute myself?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Did I say something?
Yeah, you were talking. I was talking. Gotcha. Okay. So after, if you raise your hand, I'll write your name down and make sure that eventually we get over to you in the flow of conversation. So if you're getting adjusted to this, don't worry. We have some stuff to help you. During the intros and outros of each topic, you'll have a short period of time uninterrupted where you can give your opinion. And your opinion at the end as well. The middle will be open format. And the last thing is, I will not make you a nice person.
That's wild.
It's not my time. It's not my job to make you a good person. But I will say that you do get more flies with honey than vinegar. And so that's just a piece of advice from me. Always be nice. Make sugar your favorite spice. Oh, and one last thing. And this is a rule that is for my program. Due to just how people interact, there'll be no attacking anybody's immutable characteristics. So you're not going to go after like, hey, I don't like you because you're this race. I also hold that for religion as well, unless it's a religious conversation. You're not going to be going after somebody because they're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, anything like that. If it's a religious conversation, you get into religious tenets, even though I doubt that's going to happen today, then that's the thing. And the last thing is we will address people by how they want to be addressed. This is to help the flow of conversation, and also to not get banned on Twitch. So no like going out here purposely misgendering people to be an asshole. If you want to do that off this program, that's your business, not mine, but this will not happen on my program. Does everybody understand the rules or have any questions? Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, you did you have a question or?
No questions.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to allow everybody to introduce themselves. We're going to, as always, start in the top left-hand corner with Brant.
Yo, my name is Brant. I run a Twitch channel called Brant for Liberty. We are a small, up-and-coming, crowdsourced media site. We basically cover anything and everything current events-wise that's happening throughout the country and abroad. I do, from time to time, inject my subjective, but we do like to tote the line of objective-based facts and logic. I look forward to a spirited debate. I like the new faces that I'm seeing in here. Great to see all the previous debaters that we've had in the past. And I'm just looking forward to a spirited debate. Let's go.
Happy to have you on, Brant. Next is going to be Connor.
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I am a Marine veteran, a law enforcement veteran. I identify as centrist or center right. I like fighting in all directions, which is why you probably see me on panels a decent chunk of the time. Thank you for having me, Dylan. Very excited. And I also want to shout out RGR. Thank you for coming back. You've been a missed voice in this space, so I appreciate you coming back onto the scene. Thank you kindly.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Wow, look at that. Friendship. We'll see how long that lasts. Next, we're going to throw it on to a new guest, the Hake.
Oh, sorry, chat.
Well, the Hake Show.
Hey, I'm James Hake of the Hake Report. I am an expert for the Jesse Lee Peterson show. You may see me on the Jesse Lee Peterson radio show Monday through Friday. And then right after his show, I'm on his network. I'm a host of the Hake Report. I talk religion and politics. And I'm happy to be on the Hippy Dippy round table.
Happy to have you. I already got your name show wrong, so it's off to a great start with calling it the Hake show. But I would also like to say thank you for coming on. Happy to have a new face. You'll be an amazing guest. And we're going to throw it over to Lecture Fan.
What's up? I'm Lecture Fan. I'm a practicing attorney. I do commercial litigation. I've been streaming politics on Twitch since 2015. Love talking politics. I am a conservative, traditional conservative, all the way around. Social, fiscal, foreign policy, whole 9 yards. Excited to be here.
Happy to have you back, Lecture. I saw you on the Montana radio programs too. You're getting into those,
yes,
aren't you?
I am guest hosting a statewide political talk radio show as well now.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks to Twitch, by the way. So yeah.
Throwing this over now to Lonerbox.
Hey, I'm Lonerbox. I'm a leftist. I make video essays on YouTube. I live stream on Twitch, and I occasionally tweet on twitter.com.
That last one is a mistake. Now we're going to throw it over to Lumiru.
Hi, I'm Lumiru. I use they, them pronouns, and I talk about gender, men's liberation, and I talk about gender and all other sorts of things as an intersectional feminist. So you can find me at twitch.tv/Lumiru or anywhere else, Twitter, Instagram, etc. Lumiru, L-U-V. Excited to be here, excited to have the conversations, and let's keep it cozy.
Wonderful. We love it when it's cozy. Now we're going to throw it over to Riley.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Riley Grace Rochong. I am a dual JD Masters in Public Policy student. I've done a lot of content talking about policy, especially as it intersects with some progressive issues. I've taken a bit of a break recently to focus on schooling and to figure out what exactly I want to do with my platform. But I want to start getting back into streaming because I'm really passionate about these issues and I like talking to people. So thanks for having me.
Would also like to throw out there that she has a wonderful article in Maryland Matters about trans panic defense, and I recommend you all go read it. It'll apply to your state as well, I promise you. And I'm now going to throw it over to Vaush for the last intro.
Yeah, my name is Vaush. I'm a Bloodborne speedrunner. Keeping in with the themes of this game, I am also experiencing rapid mental degeneration, which is why I sometimes say things when other people are talking during panels. I'll chalk it up to that. Anyway, nice and cold over here in Washington, so happy to warm myself by the lantern with you fine people. Thank you.
Would that mental degeneration also explain your Skyrim take?
No, that was made cohesively when I first played
sure.
Skyrim many years ago, because I'm not an infant who claps when keys jingle in front of his face.
Yeah, okay. I understand, sir. So you're going to be muted a lot today. So we're going to now go into the first topic of the day, which is going to be the Rittenhouse trial. Obviously, I know this is a divisive issue, so I'm just going to ask everybody to heed some caution when trying to engage with others on this, because I will mute people if you do not quiet down when I start talking, and I will use it liberally or be in law and order today. Okay, so we're going to start this time in the bottom right hand corner with the person who was just talking, Vaush Vidya.
Yeah. First of all, more like Shittenhouse. Happy to get that one out there. I think that, so the trial right now is going over a number of charges. What we're mostly looking at here is the self-defense claim, which I'm not a legal expert. It seems like the self-defense claim that he has towards the homicide charges is legit. The circumstances of the killings are such that he would be, that he'll get let off on that. There are some other charges he might catch, but that's what people are really paying attention to. But I think that, the conversation here on whether or not what he did legally falls under the definition of self-defense isn't really the pointed issue to me. It's more about the cultural forces that would lead somebody like him to not only feel it's necessary to, but actually go out and essentially act as a right-wing militia during a civil rights protest under the, the guise or perceived intent of defending property. It's a symptom of a disease, a broader cultural issue that extends well past the legal definition of self-defense.
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Riley.
So are we talking about just anything having to do with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, or is there anything specific you want?
You can interpret the question however you want.
Okay, so I guess going a little bit off of what Vaush was talking about, I would disagree that this doesn't have to do with the legal issues, something that's been very troubling to me just watching, because there are criticisms that you could raise about some of the decisions that the trial judge has made. For example, like there was a ruling that they could not
I'm muted. Holy
refer to the
shit.
people who Kyle had killed as victims, but that if the prosecution laid, or if the defense laid the proper evidence, that they could refer to them as rioters or looters. It's weird to specify that they could do the alternative. It's not necessarily unheard of to rule in that kind of way. It usually has to do with like a 403 evidentiary ruling, but it's weird to specify that they're able to do the alternative. And then other things like, for example, having the court clap or applaud
RGR
for
is
the expert
literally
in the case.
in law school, so I would defer
Now,
to a
granted,
lot
it
of
was
the
on
stuff she
Veterans
believes
Day, and
on
they were
this.
the only veteran in the room, so you could argue like, well, it's plausible, like they could do it, but it's still like a little weird. That being said, just from what I have seen at the trial and going over it, it seems like a lot of the evidentiary rulings have been reasonable. I haven't seen like any major red flags flaring up. I'd be interested in hearing what Lecture Fan has to say on that front, since he also has legal background. But I was talking to Pisco yesterday, and that seemed to be like the consensus among us looking at the case so far. But there's a lot of people online who are talking about this as if the case is rigged, and that's troubling, because I want to make sure that we don't end up in a situation where just because the case may not go over how we want it to personally, that we start saying that we should not trust the results of the of this. I was going to say of the election. It's very similar in that respect, but trusting the results or the outcome of this case. Appeals will happen, and we should trust that process, but we need to make sure that we still trust the process. I also agree that like this does not mean that we can't morally talk about what he did, but I just want to make sure that we're all like separating those conversations. I'll leave that there.
Okay, next is going to be Lumi.
All right. I think Vaush already hit the point I'm most concerned on is why did he end up here? What are the social forces there? As well as what are we doing to actually have justice in terms of how do we get our communities towards an area where we're not having these white supremacist militias, and especially in the middle of the time when we do need to be expanding these conversations on racial justice. So those are my primary concerns with this case.
Okay. Also, Lumi, I sent you a DM. I'm going to throw it over to Lonerbox.
Yeah, I'm definitely not swayed by like 90% of the arguments I've seen, especially like on leftist Twitter about the trial being rigged or the fake crying white supremacist sociopath or anything like that. I think the most productive criticism that could be made has already been kind of mentioned, is just that like every role model in Kyle's life convinced him that he was doing the right thing to go there. Like whether it was the person who gave him the gun or the adults from the Facebook group who got him down there, the cops who were giving him water and saying, we appreciate you. And then obviously all of the conservative like groups afterwards who were not only like elevating, but just like making like a martyr out of him. And I think there's a pretty dangerous precedent in that, of the idea of like letting a 17-year-old walk around with a semi-automatic in the name of defending property. And they kind of know that, like they've said that his behavior during those shootings was like exceptional. Like he let his gun down when someone had their hands up. He only shot people who were attacking him. It looks like he's going to get off in self-defense. And the thing is though, like 9 out of 10 17-year-olds in that situation would have probably just panicked and opened fire into the crowd. Like this isn't the kind of behavior you should be encouraging. And I think especially if we're talking about role models, I think Kyle is like basically like a very misguided child who has been surrounded by very toxic role models who are just giving him all the kinds of reinforcement and elevation that is probably going to set a precedent for, other young people to maybe try and do something similar. And we probably won't be as lucky with, only 2 dead. We might have 20 next time. So I think that's, yeah.
Next, we're going to throw it over to Lecture Fan, the first conservative of the program.
Okay, so these are essentially these local crime stories that get blown into national stories because the media and the Democrats think it fits the narrative. There's shootings, there's killings, there's all these things that happen all the time, all across the country. They never get talked about, they never get brought up, except when Democrats in the media thinks it fits their narrative and they think it's a good thing to push. So that's what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse is, oh my gosh, this fits our narrative that there's all these white supremacist militias out there. And so that's why it got turned into a national story, even though there's shootings and there's killings like every day in the United States. We never hear about them. And here we are talking about it first topic. So what's funny, though, is that the trial's actually showing that what the narrative and the Democrat line was completely false, and that Kyle Rittenhouse has been completely slandered and defamed by Democrats and the media throughout this whole thing. And now everybody finally admits, oh, yeah, he's going to get out on self-defense. Well, it's interesting that it takes a trial to prove what the media and the Democrats were pushing as a complete lie. And so this also shows the politicization of our justice system, and it's really sad that a kid like this would get prosecuted here solely because of politics, not because of the facts, not because there is probable cause to believe he committed a crime, just for politics. And Vaush and these other people here are admitting that, he's innocent. Yeah, he's innocent, but it's still a concern that he was there and stuff. It's like, no, these were rioters literally burning the city to the ground, and it's good. And I mean, frankly, the Democrats don't want the police there actually pushing back against these violent criminal rioters and looters literally burning the city to the ground. And so somebody, there's nothing wrong with somebody saying, okay, somebody's got to like push back against this criminal activity. This is insane. These people are burning the city to the ground. And the Democrats and the media are saying this is fine. This is justified in the middle of COVID, because, racism is a public health crisis too. So don't worry about COVID here or anything. Let's just let this burning and rioting go on. And it's like, come on. You guys never talk about crime until it fits your narrative, and you can go around saying white supremacists, militias. It's like, no, it's got nothing to do with that.
Okay, next is going to be the Hake report. Got it right this time.
Well, I appreciate it. I call him Kyle Jack Bauer, John Wick Rittenhouse, not to glorify violence at all, or glorify unjustified violence, really. Because as everybody before me just laid out, he handled himself perfectly once he was on the scene and faced with these criminals attacking him. And I'm just so impressed with him. I think he seems to be an upstanding young man. I know he had a right to own and carry a gun. I don't care what the Wisconsin law says. They call it an illegally purchased gun. The real issue seems like everybody has conceded that he is completely innocent in the killings and the self-defense shooting of that Grosskreutz. I wish the rest in peace to the attackers. I have no ill will towards them, but they really brought that on themselves. They were the vigilantes, not Kyle. And it is a concern that we have politicians, local politicians, who are unwilling to protect the businesses, the innocent people, from the terrorists, the insurrectionists. And there was no reason to have a protest over there. That was a completely justified shooting of Jacob Blake. He was out of control. Non-lethal measures did not work. So they had no reason to be out there rioting and looting and terrorizing the city. So it's a shame that it took a young man to handle business there. But I'm glad that thank God he was armed, and thank God that he didn't hurt anybody else. But angels were guiding his aim, and I appreciate him.
Next is going to be counterpoints.
This is fucking amazing. All right, I think you guys are gonna see why I'm a fucking centrist. Holy shit. So the way the prosecution has conducted themselves has been pretty fucking bad. I wouldn't mind getting into that with RGR, because I literally just had a debate last night with our good friend Destiny, basically about like procedural rules and whether or not you can introduce information that you kind of know to be bullshit. I think that's something that we can talk about. What a question that was asked by a few of the leftist panelists was, what is prompting people to form militias and these civil defense organizations? Well, I would say it would be the public narrative that we've all been dealing with for the past 2 to 3 years, and hopefully we can unpack that. But one of the things that I've been fighting for the past 2 years is let's just defund the police and figure it the fuck out. Well, no. If you slash a police department budget by 10%, or if you encourage them not to enact on behalf of the community, there's going to be a power vacuum. This is how power works. And as a result, you're going to have militias that take to the streets, and you're going to have basically vigilante justice, the way that, not even vigilante justice, vigilante violence, the way that we've seen in this particular incident. Excusing rioting, or the conflation between rioting and protest, I think is part of the problem that let a 17-year-old walk around with a rifle. And then it's weird to me that, like, maybe we can parse this out. I don't have high hopes, but maybe we could parse out, like, why is it that a 17-year-old with a rifle going into a community in order to defend property is morally like reprehensible, disgusting even. But, you know, the day he turns 18, we can give him a rifle and he can go to Iraq. And the day he turns 21, we can give him a pistol and he can become a cop. Like, that, very clearly the moral impetus that Kyle Rittenhouse had can be used for positive means. It just wasn't used for positive means. Finally, getting to the conservative things, handled himself perfectly. No, absolutely fucking not. Part of the reason why there's 2 dead people and part of the reason why there's a grossly injured person is because he got separated from his group. So he left himself, like, open to be attacked. This would be something that a law enforcement officer or a military member would have known not to do. And as a result of his negligence, he got 2 people killed and 1 person greatly maimed. So no, he didn't handle himself perfectly. I'm happy he got to do the John Wick voodoo after he fucked up by getting separated from his group, but god damn it. And then on top of that, this is my last point, and then I'll yield the floor, is like, this is an opportunity for de-escalation. After these intros, I don't exactly have high hopes for that, because it seems like everybody just wants to repeat the same fucking narratives that got us here in the first place. But I'll leave it for the open, and maybe we can pack some of this shit apart. We'll fucking see.
Okay, so we have one more intro. It's going to be Brent's. But I want to say that what we're going to do, instead of going straight into it, due to, like, how different people look at this situation, we're gonna have people raise their hand, and I'm just gonna choose who starts this off so we can get the ball rolling. So we're gonna have Brant next.
All right, so I guess it's time to piss everybody off, because I'm gonna say some stuff that pisses everyone off here.
Nothing to us.
But yeah, this is in the art of compromise, right? This is in the idea of keeping things in the realm of logic. Okay, so we have a 17-year-old gentleman who is dropped off knowingly by his mother to defend businesses. Is he legally within his right to carry the rifle? Yes. Does he lawfully possess the rifle? No, it's someone else's. He is lawfully having the gun on his persons, which creates a loophole there. Now we can argue, should he have ever been there? Would I have called him and who I call the patriot private citizen feeling the need to do what the police want to do, they don't want to do? Should we stigmatize them? Not necessarily, but you should judge people that do take the law in their own hands and decide to do things like that. That being said, that does not give the right for an 11 times convicted, we'll just say offender. I don't want to get the show in any trouble here, but an 11 times convicted offender, another person who then not witnessing, but rather adhering to a call for vigilante justice to cranium Kyle, making the same fatal mistake that Rosenbaum did by grabbing at the gun. Does that give them the right to attack the kid? No. Do I believe that self-defense is what we've seen? I think all 3 times were clear, cut and clear moments of self-defense. Where do I think that we should be looking at to fix this from a point of reconciliation? Well, I think we really should look at how the FBI and how all state and local authorities handled the riots. Also, we need to look at the fact that Rosenbaum, a person who was released from a mental ward and then immediately went to go riot, we have to ask the same way we would ask Wendy Rittenhouse, what the hell are you doing dropping your son off at something that is very dangerous, known to be dangerous. And then we have to also ask, who is allowing Rosenbaum to keep doing what he's doing? That is what starts the first domino. That's what kicks all of this off. That's what starts the chase. That's making multiple threats to not just Rittenhouse, but other people in the crowd as well.
Guys.
And so what I'm saying is, in the art of
This panel's gonna
compromise,
be a
I think
shit
if we
show.
were going to go after anyone, it would be a point of reconciliation with law enforcement, and then it would be possibly finding a window of pursuing the fact that Wendy Rittenhouse knowingly leaves her son somewhere. He's a minor, and that to me is where the avenue of jurisdiction is. Other than that, nobody has the right to attack a minor who is lawfully carrying a gun, and that's what I will end on there.
Okay, so those were the intros. Now we're going to go into an open period. Again, please consider how difficult my job is going to be today when you talk to people. Now, if you want to be the first person to talk, raise your hand and I'll just call on somebody. Okay, Riley was the first, so I'll throw it to Riley.
I want to ask to get this out of the way. Does anyone actually have any issues with the legal matters in this case, or are we all just talking about the moral issues or the other circumstantial issues? I just kind of
Great
want to.
point.
Sorry. What?
I said that's a great point.
Okay, so I'd probably just distract. We could do it one-on-one, but my problem is there's just some information that the prosecution is using in order to try to make their case that I feel goes contradictory to the evidence. And basically the crux of the debate is whether or not defense attorneys or whether or not prosecutors should have the right to basically ignore exculpatory evidence that should, be able to basically exonerate somebody or basically exonerate somebody. Do they have the right to basically just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks? And I think that's one of the main things that libertarians or conservatives have been frustrated about with this case is basically seeing the prosecution just kind of throw shit at the wall.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So does anyone? All right, hold on. So does anyone else actually have any knowledge about that? I'd be fine to talk about that, but if everyone, I heard everyone talk on this, and it sounds like everyone is talking about more about the ethics of what Kyle did.
Well, I would go into an anecdote specifically within the case where there is a moment where the judge and the prosecution are having a back and forth in which the prosecution has mentioned things that multiple times have been cut and clear. Do not bring this up. You will plant a bad seed. It could corrupt the jurors' decision making. And it was about his silence. There were other moments as well where there were basically arguing what color the sky is, pixelation, and trying to explain interpolation to a judge who just knows pinch and zoom, doesn't understand the fact that whenever you have a canvas that is 1920 by 1080 pixels, whenever you are pinching and zooming, you're essentially cutting away pixels to add in pixels in hopes of clarifying an image. Now, whenever the judge asked the prosecution that the burden of proof was on them to prove that there had to be a precise, rebuttal from their, I believe it was an FBI person who had clarified the image, he could not give that clarity. They knowingly put him up there just so that they could keep talking about the subject. These are episodes of what I consider state malfeasance, and the fact that they'd much rather drum up a bad feeling or a theory for which will get thrown out anyway, but once it's in their brain, it's in their brain. These are all episodes of what I consider a state that is grasping at straws. They want a result. They don't want the correct result. And that's basically my,
So I have a lot to say on that. Wait, hold on. I have a lot to say on that because, so I'm going to begin by saying I don't like the way that the prosecution has been conducting a lot of their case, but also I don't think that the way that they're acting is atypical for how a lot of other prosecutors would act in similar circumstances. This is a situation where the prosecution has bad facts and bad case law. Now, I think that there's a really good criticism of the prosecutor with the Fifth Amendment issue when he commented on his silence. That is inexcusable. The other issue when they were talking about propensity evidence, right? So the comment that Rittenhouse made about oh yeah, I wish I would have my rifle so I could be able to shoot at other people. The circumstances where where the prosecutor tried to reintroduce that comment makes it seem like he actually tried to do what the judge wanted them to do, which is usually in those circumstances, or if it's more prejudicial and probative, you have to be able to establish more evidence to be able to demonstrate that it is in fact relevant or more probative than it is prejudicial, or substantially more probative than it is prejudicial, because all relevant evidence is going to be prejudicial to some effect. But in that case, it seems like the prosecutor probably tried to do the best that they could, but they just are dealt bad facts. I wouldn't say that this is an example of prosecutors trying to like act maliciously or whatever. It's just that they're doing the best that they can with bad evidence.
I love you guys, but
you can
I'm
say that they're not doing a good job.
Topic. This is
but
like
to make them out to be
legal
evil, I think is
specifics.
misleading.
This is expert
Can
stuff.
Can I respond to that? Because
Like,
I think
you
this
have to
is
have
kind of
more
my
knowledge than I
frustration with
have.
it. So,
Billy,
like,
so
should prosecutors be able to throw shit at the wall even if they kind of know it's bad? Should they be able to prejudice a jury as long as they think that they can get away with it without getting slammed too hard? And on top of that, this is kind of my question. I didn't get a direct answer yesterday. You were saying that it's like, oh, it's inexcusable for him to do that. Is this something that, like, I don't know, like fucking first year law students fucking know? Like, do you think that it was intentional, or was it just a mistake by somebody who has a shitty job? Like that was kind of my frustration with it.
The Fifth Amendment issue is definitely, so that's something that you're normally going to be taught in like evidence. It's not going to be first year, but it's going to be like second or third year. Usually, so like that is a pretty egregious issue, and I think that is warranted of criticism. But with the other issue, with like the propensity, like the comment about the rifle, right? That seems like an example more. It's where it's like they tried to make it relevant. They tried to do what the judge asked, and the judge didn't buy what they said. I don't hold that as much against the prosecutor, because they essentially were trying. You can make an argument that they were trying to give the judge what they wanted. They just didn't do a good enough job. But I wouldn't fault the attorney for trying to do that if that's arguably going to be one of the best pieces of evidence they could get into the case, to be able to prove their kind of theory that Kyle is like this. They're trying to like make it into like, oh, Kyle was this evil scheming person beforehand. That would be a really good comment to be able to get in to support their theory.
I have a question really quickly for the eggheads on this panel, the legal nerds. What do we say about the claims that the judge has been a little bit sussy? How do you feel about those claims?
I feel like the judge so like I said it earlier, I feel like the judge has been a little bit sussy. Usually whenever you ask for things like a mistrial, or you have issues where you think that the judge is being impartial, usually the question is like, because every judge is probably going to be biased, at least to some degree, right? Like this is just kind of like a matter of the fact we're dealing with the legal system. We're all humans. We try to make the system to account for human error. So what probably will happen is that there will be like appeals after the case is decided, and there's going to be like some arguments that based on some things like the judge having everyone clap for the expert, for example, like it's a little sussy. But I don't think it rises to the level of being able to throw out like all of his rulings, because a lot of them have seemed at least reasonable.
Do you think that, because I did see that whole like, do we have any veterans in the room? Oh, hey, it's the defense's next witness. Can we all give her a... I did see that. That did seem really weird. I don't know if that would be enough to declare a mistrial, but do you think so you don't think that anything's rigged? I don't either. But do you think that there's a good pretense, a good excuse to, at the very least, say that behavior ought to be changed? Is there what can we do about this alleged sussiness?
I don't know. It's hard because like usually like in a lot of cases where if you have judges who are like this, as an attorney, it's probably in your best interest to just try and like go with what the judge wants to the best of your ability, because ultimately like the judge has a lot of power in these kind of circumstances, right? And it's not like you can make the judge like change their mind, and you can't really like give a judge an order to not be as biased, because like if you try, I don't even know what you would try to do that.
No, you could try. I don't know if it'd work, but you could try.
But it would make the judge probably like royally pissed off at you, and you never want to piss off the judge. So you can fault like the prosecution for royally pissing off the judge, because that's the last thing that you want to do.
Can we
One
just
second,
admit that
one second, Connor. 1 second. I want to throw it over to Hake. He tried to speak earlier, and I saw it was stopped. I want to make sure he gets a chance to speak. Hake?
Thank you. What can we do about the fact that, I think Lecture Fan said it first, these people, Kyle should never have even been charged with at least most of this stuff, especially the most serious of the crimes, in the first place. But the only reason he was charged, seemingly, in my impression, was because of the lynch mob in the media and on Twitter and elsewhere, and the local government that failed to protect their city. It seems like it reminds me of George Zimmerman. Aren't you supposed to only make a charge against a person if you think that you can win without a reasonable doubt? but they're like ridiculously overcharging these people when the facts are quite clear.
No, I think it's entirely
you can charge. It's not when beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the standard for the ruling of the case.
It's purely up
I
to
don't
the
know how
DA.
it works, and I don't know how
it's
like
up to the DA.
I mean, I don't know like I don't know how you guys do it over there.
You
but
go to
like,
500 different counties. It's going to give you 500 different results on how they would pursue these charges.
I don't think it's at all atypical for Rittenhouse to receive the charges that he has. You know, like part of the legal process is determining innocence as well. If anything, we would be happy that Rittenhouse, even people on the left, the right, everyone, we should be happy that Rittenhouse is getting these charges and a trial following, because the alternative would be essentially lawlessness. You can't claim to be law and order while also throwing out the mechanism by which we determine whether or not a person has actually violated the law, right? If he ends up getting exonerated of these charges, then that's something you should be celebrating. You shouldn't be angry that he was tested to begin with.
No,
Wait, one second. Riley wanted to say something. I'm gonna write lecture fan down. Riley Loner, and I'll write lecture fan down.
Yeah, I just want to say that, like, very quickly. All right, so I'm going to make some background appeal because I used to work in the Attorney General Office of Maryland for their organized crime division, so I have experience with like some degree of like charging. In this kind of case, what we're dealing with, so like, it's important to recognize that self-defense is a justification defense. Usually, when it's brought up by defense attorneys, it's brought up when you already acknowledge or where you're already basically agreeing that a lot of the material elements of the charges that are being made are already basically met, right? It would be really, really weird to not at least bring the charges against Rittenhouse when it's very clear that, like, I don't know, so like if there's like manslaughter, right? So common law manslaughter is like unlawful killing of another, and then mens rea is going to vary, right? We already basically know that those elements are absolutely met, right? So it would be really weird to not put that in front of a trial when we already know that there is a dead body. Isn't that multiple? There's dead body. Kyle did it, and now the matter is just like, did he do it with the requisite mens rea? And also, did he have a justification for doing it? So it would be really, really weird to not at least bring this to trial.
Even though no sane person would convict him.
I mean, I don't know like how you guys do it over there, right? But like over here, if there's a self-defense case, even if it's like fairly clear cut, like if someone dies, it should probably go to trial, like just to, you know, like so the criminal justice system can like confirm that on paper, especially since you're going off camera footage. Like
Also,
I think it's fairly normal.
How do you know if a person's going to be convicted?
Wait, there was a question to Riley. I just want to make sure she can respond to that.
Yeah, what was the question?
Hake?
Oh, I said even though no sane person would convict this young man.
I wouldn't say that. I think that a reasonable person could come to the conclusion that he. So one of the elements of self-defense, we didn't go over all of them. We can go over all of them if you want to. But one of the elements in common law self-defense is that you. It's also required that you did not create the circumstances where you needed to use deadly force in order to be able to defend yourself. So there's a reasonable argument that could be made that he ended up contributing to creating the circumstances that led to him having to use the deadly force. Now, I'm not saying that like any reasonable person is going to come to that conclusion, but I think that a reasonable jury could.
Also, the point of a trial is to find out the evidence of the case, right? You can't really say whether a person would be convicted before the trial has happened, because that's when the arguments are made for whether or not they should be convicted.
That's
no, hold on.
Because we have grand juries and shit to figure out whether or not stuff is like worthy enough of going to trial. And then on top of that, like with this situation in particular, like there is evidence that like Kyle might have had a different mindset. I think we've all seen the CVS footage where he was talking about like, oh, I wish I had my gun because it looks like there's a guy that's armed right there while they're looting the store. While I think that's excusable, a bunch of leftists don't think that it's excusable. They think that that's like, you know, nefarious moral behavior to see people like robbing a store with guns and be like, oh, I wish I could do something about that. But that could go to the mindset of whether or not he wanted to cause the situation that resulted in other people's deaths.
Right,
there's still room to be argued.
We can all agree that
After Vaush, we're going to lecture fan, by the way.
That court proceedings are a necessary component in finding out whether or not it would be worth it to convict somebody, right? I mean, we don't have all the info. We didn't have all the info after Rittenhouse actually went ahead and killed those folk. We have more info now. That's the point of these trials. It contextualizes things. It adds information. If we don't have these trials, what do we defer entirely to the court of public opinion, where whichever Twitter video goes most viral is the one that'll determine the rest of Rittenhouse's life. You know, we need to be able to defer to some kind of systematized process. The courts are not perfect, but they're sure as hell better than going like, I don't think I'd convict Rittenhouse, so no charges. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, no, Vaush and Lonerbox are wrong. Brandt is correct. When Brandt said you could get 500 different counties and 500 different decisions, that's absolutely correct. It's called prosecutorial discretion. It's a very, very important thing in criminal prosecutions. It's the prosecutor's discretion. That's why prosecutors are elected. In Montana and a lot of other states, county attorneys, they're elected officials. The attorney general is elected. At the federal level, the United States attorneys are appointed by the president. These are political positions because they have a ton of discretion, and so it's called prosecutorial discretion for an absolute reason. And I find it very rich to hear leftists. I find it very rich to hear leftists who are the first to always criticize our criminal justice system as being sort of rigged against the criminal defendant. And you always hear leftists talking about how, the prosecutors and the judge, they're always going to lunch together, they work together all the time, and the whole system is rigged against the criminal defendant, and they're forced into plea deals all the time because it's so expensive and so risky to go to trial, and blah 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 blah. But when it fits our political narrative, now we're going to say, a criminal trial is to find out if they should even be prosecuted. No, it's not. You shouldn't be charging people. That a prosecutor shouldn't be exercising his prosecutorial discretion to pursuing charges like this and literally potentially ruining somebody's life just by going through the trial, when that discretion clearly should have been exercised to not charge him at all.
Wait, I'm pretty sure. Hold on, wait. A protest where a person open carrying ends up killing 2 people. This is a circumstance where you would see charges brought in almost any circumstance. I have never heard of any case that was that lethal, that was that ambiguous, not be given some kind of...
It happens all the time. It's just not put out as a national story because the Democrats don't want to use it to push their narrative.
Do you have evidence that there's some kind of bias with regards to Rittenhouse, and the only reason charges were brought was because of some kind of lefty...
Yeah, look at how the prosecution's been acting, and you see.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
This is happening up and down the justice system. You see this happening all across the justice system. It's not just this one incident.
That didn't answer my question. You can't just say, well, look at how they're acting. Like, I'm pretty sure that with what happened with Rittenhouse, charges were pretty reasonable, you know? If he gets exonerated of some of them, that's good. But it seems like there are some he isn't even going to be, right? Aren't there some things he did, like the crossing the borders, or the illegal possession, or possibly reckless endangerment, that there's a decent shot at them getting convicted for? Maybe some more than others? If that's the case, not only were charges warranted, they might end up even being found guilty. How can you say that he shouldn't have gotten any charges at all? Also, you realize that if he'd never gotten any charges, lefties would have thrown a fit, right? If you think BLM burned down cities, oh my God! After Rittenhouse, if he hadn't even gotten charges,
right? That's exactly, yeah. So now you're trying to use like this threat of burning down cities.
I'm saying that there was. I'm saying that there was a. I'm saying that there was a legal reason to.
Wait. Okay, we're gonna have Vaush respond, but I'm gonna throw it to Lumi because Lumi hasn't been able to talk really since the opening. So we're gonna have Vaush then Lumi.
Yeah. So there's there's a legal reason to, as I explained, because it seems like some of the charges might be even found guilty, and even then, I think that the charges for which he is exonerated are socially valuable. For 2, it's valuable because exoneration from charges is a important social process. You know. People can't magically decide whether or not charges are going to be exonerated or found guilty on beforehand. You need a process for that. And 3rd, civically, yeah, I do think that high publicity cases should go to trial, like all the time. How else are we as a society supposed to arrive at any opinions on the matter outside of the court of public opinion? It's socially valuable. In fact, I'm pretty sure one of the biggest benefits of the right to trial by jury, the system we have of due process, is that it gives everyone a sense of fairness, at least more so than the alternative. when big events like this take place. I mean, this is like a slam dunk. The trial should have happened. And if he gets exonerated...
everything the left has been saying about the criminal justice system and
the
the problems
left?
with their
Are they
criminal
on the
justice
panel right
system,
now?
that's all wrong. Okay.
Who's the
I got
left?
Do you think you can maybe
Where
just
are the
address
lefts?
us instead of like the imaginary leftists? I mean, like you can make like a conservative civic case about this. Like you want to go with responsible gun ownership. Well, if you're a gun carrier, maybe it's good to know that if you kill another citizen, then you should probably have to make your case to the state. I think that's a good precedent to set because it encourages responsible gun ownership. So. But as far as I know, like I looked at this a little bit, but as far as I know, it's fairly normal for this to happen.
Lumi?
I just got frustrated because it sounds like Lecture Fan is so determined to make generalizations of the left and not hear what Vaush was saying. So I was popping in to say, no, you're completely misinterpreting what he's saying, but I should have just let Vaush do it. He had it.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you. I appreciate that, Lumi.
I wanted to interject on their conversation.
One second.
That's fine.
1 second, Brant. Connor wanted to go earlier, and I stopped him, so I'll go Connor, then you, if that's okay. Cool. Connor?
Yeah, so, no, it's... I get it. We're all being sober adults. I super appreciate it, actually. I was expecting this to be a fucking shit-fligging fest. We can probably get into that pretty soon.
It's law and order.
But
Wait until we get into wokeness.
Yeah, so the actual court in a public trial is to give us an alternative to the court of public opinion. All right, I think this is completely accurate, but I'm going to pull a fucking Lecture Fan, and I'm going to go, the left has been, tried in the court of public opinion for a fucking year with evidence that has been publicly available for the better part of a year. And even in this panel, we're still using terms like fucking white supremacist fucking militia in order to describe the incidents that fucking unfolded. So this is where the left is, capitalizing on a narrative that isn't substantiated by evidence that we've had for like a super long time, and then using it as fucking jet fuel to continue with like fucking protests and riots. And like that.
Who said white supremacist militia? Here.
Me during
Okay, I did, and the reason. So my point. Am I echoing?
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter too.
Yeah,
so
you're echoing a tiny bit. Yeah.
Don't say these people don't exist. We all know they exist.
Okay, but I do think it's good to address people on the panel, of course. But I did say this, and what I should have probably said is I do think that he is influenced by a lot of the narratives in what we have seen regarding white supremacy. So that's frustrating. I can't say that for sure, but I do think that the case of him being with the white supremacists in the bar drinking is something to be mindful of. When you have a 17-year-old around someone who are blatantly Proud Boys, white supremacists, I think it's dangerous to ignore that reality and try to shut down that conversation, especially when that's right after, wasn't that right after he got out on bail?
Yeah. So
is that not a concern? Why do we have to shut down that conversation?
Yeah, can I address this directly? Because we're jumping between like multiple definitions of white supremacy. If you want to talk about like a highfalutin academic, like white people have set systems up and systemic racism and capitalism and all that kind of shit, you could say that about the fucking Proud Boys. But if you're talking about like ethno-nat, Richard Spencer, Roman saluting fucking
Fuentes,
people, then or even Fuentes. I don't even think the Proud Boys are Christian nationalists. Then they're like, we're talking about different categories of right wing, different categories of what some people define as white supremacy. And when you say white supremacist, like nobody in the conservative or libertarian movement is thinking like, oh, in an academic sense, they contribute to systemic racism. They're thinking fucking Klan hoods. That's what they're thinking. And then on top of that, normies are thinking that shit too. And that's part of the reason why discourse is so fucking poisoned around these conversations, is because we can't be nuanced. I literally just got called a fascist today. And it's like you don't know what the fuck the word means. Like,
right.
All right, anyways, not you, the ambivalent you.
And I think the left has a similar frustration that we all just get grouped. But I would say, that's why I have my streams where I do break it down in academic terms and say, this is why, this is what we're talking about, and this is the specifics of it. But I understand not everyone does that.
Next is going to be Brant. Brant wanted to talk earlier.
Yeah, I have 2 points to make here. We kind of sped past it. Lecture Fan was talking about, I'd brought up
I gotta admit,
500
I didn't
different
think the
DAs with
counterpoints
500
wouldn't think
different elected
the Proud Boys
judges
are white supremacists.
gives you
I guess I
500
wouldn't
different
have expected
scenarios
that.
of how this ends, right? Then you mix in the whole fact that if you're politicizing something, you are possibly setting a precedent. There's an extremely amount of a high amount of prosecutorial responsibility and making sure when you're bringing cases up that, especially when, like we're talking about, this particular prosecutorial team has just been throwing stuff against the wall. Think about if you're sitting there on the jury and voting to incriminate, or I guess convict, Kyle Rittenhouse will set such a dangerous precedent. And to think this won't be drummed up in future cases, to think that, just like Roe versus Wade, Brown versus Board of Education, setting precedents, this will re-outline what self-defense is, regardless how big of a dingus and an idiot that you are, or the idiot you associate yourself with. I will leave you with an anecdote here. Essentially, and Lecture Fan can correct me if I'm wrong here, if I'm or maybe I'm right partially, seeing as how maybe some states recognize this, some don't. But if you're a felon, a previously convicted felon, you're sitting in your house with a gun illegally, somebody breaks into your house and you defend yourself from said aggressor, the gun charge, illegally possessing a gun, and justifiable defense are separate incidents. They are not considered connected. Now, like I said, 500 different DAs, 500 different judges gives you 500 different results, and it's all up to the court of public opinion. You're setting dangerous precedents whenever you are when you're trying anything and everything you can to get your politics injected into what the situation is. And what we're seeing right now is a prime example, and I'm going to give it to the left here, that the judge in some cases, to me, I'm not going to say overtly, but in a manner has shown to a degree, not infrastructurally, it's not like it's affected his process in being able to officiate over this, but the judge has distributed a little bit of overt bias, I would say, a little bit. We can kind of see where his politics is. What we're seeing is an unstoppable object meets an immovable object, and that's a DA who is, you can tell, in my opinion, I think that the DA or Binger is biased, and I think the judge is biased. And what we're seeing is a battle between the two of them, and we're seeing a defense trying to stop someone who has justifyingly self-defended themselves, stopping a dangerous precedent from being set. And our best hope is that the jury catches on to this and understands the bigger picture, not just 2022 or 2024. That's what I got to say.
Okay, next we're gonna throw it over to Riley, who raised her hand, then Hake. But then I want to move away from the law, touch on the moral some, because I knew that at the beginning we said we were gonna talk about the law. We went to the moral, since I saw some people wanted to talk about that after these two speak. So we're gonna start with Riley, then Hake.
Yeah, all right. I have to talk about a couple things that have to do with the law. So first off, like this idea of discretion, I don't know why people are focusing on this. All that discretion has to do is it determines whether or not a prosecutor can choose to bring a case or not. I feel like it's a slam dunk. I feel like any reasonable prosecutor would bring this case for a reason that we've talked about before. I can't see any possible realistic scenario where a prosecutor who's given this case cannot choose to bring it. As far as like the 500 DAs or 500 different judges, I feel like this is saying that there's a lot of variability in how people decide cases. And while we can make arguments that there's some variability, I feel like this is being vastly over-exaggerated. I feel like people of different political backgrounds are going to come to, generally speaking, comparable judicial decisions a lot of the time. We saw this, for example, last year with with a case about gender and sexuality discrimination that was written, or that was chiefly led by a Trump appointee judge. And in this case, we have a judge who is, like, as we've discussed, sometimes it seems like he is more biased towards conservatives, but he was appointed by a Democrat, right? It's very hard to be able to say that, like, oh, we're going to have a ton of variability when, generally speaking, like, even though there's going to be like some bias that comes in, a lot of the time people who you put in these kind of situations have been practicing the law throughout their entire life and are going to be like generally pretty decent about their application. And even if you make arguments that they make mistakes sometime, we do have an appeals process to be able to remedy this. But even that being said, if there is an appeal, I don't see this having precedential value, especially like what you're saying. In order for it to have that kind of precedential value, to have to go to the circuit court and then maybe the Supreme Court. But the facts in this case just don't seem that controversial. Like
Thank
the
God
facts
I didn't
seem
get
like
into law.
pretty
Holy
indisputable
shit.
for the most part. So I don't see it having
I
that
can't
kind of
imagine
precedential
being a
effect.
nerd.
That's all.
Hake?
I just wanted to correct the record on Proud Boys. They're generally honorable, in fact, by and large, honorable men who just defend the innocent from the evil.
God damn it.
Brian, can I ask you, Brian, I wanted to ask you something about precedent, because I'll just make that point again. Do you not think, like, I'm just skimming things, so I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure this is the case, that if you want to encourage people to be responsible with their guns, then it is good to know that if you're carrying a gun, then if you kill someone in self-defense, you'll probably have to make your case to the state, because civilians killing each other, it's not really something you should be taking very lightly, is it? Like, you don't think it's quite good to have that confidence when it comes to gun ownership?
It's more of a vague depiction. What you're saying, setting precedent. What I'm talking about is the fact that the specifics of this case sets a threshold for which others can argue, which could sway a jury. And
Okay, whenever this guy talks, I
basically,
have no idea what's going on anymore.
all of the factors that happened to Kyle would have to be even more prevalent for you to overturn this precedent. It's not as simple as just let's use this for gun safety, or let's just, we'll convict him maybe on a lesser charge. Maybe it gets dropped to second or third degree manslaughter. And so now we can just, people will just have to be safer. Nobody in the world has brought up yet the fact that 3 men chased a minor who was fleeing from them and attacked them, simultaneously within, I think the prosecution said and admitted, 6.5 minutes total. Nobody has argued that the men should have any bearing of accountability, something that would have a, bearance on the precedent that would be set.
Did
All that's
anything
being
happen
said
before
is
they
the man.
chased him, or was that just for
Yeah,
fun?
multiple threats, confrontations, not to mention projectiles, bombs, homemade bombs.
Did they just see Rittenhouse? Homemade bombs. Did they just see
Are you saying
Rittenhouse,
that open?
on
Let me
the-
ask you this: are you saying that open carrying is enough for me to interpret to be able to attack you?
Wait, was
like
this...
you're open carrying your
no,
open
no,
carrying
it's just
your gun,
no. I just
right?
think your language is incredibly loaded. This 3 men just started chasing. No, that's not really what happened, is it? There were a series of escalating incidents and distrust on both sides. Rittenhouse killed a person after they chased him down. Then afterwards, he was going over to report himself to the police, after which people followed him, and there was an additional altercation. The language you're using is incredibly misleading for the purpose of being moralistic. Kyle Rittenhouse is young. I'm not expecting that his ability to handle
I didn't get into their
situations.
motives, did I? I didn't get into their motives or anything.
All
that I said
you're
was
talking about
that
the morality of their
objective facts of
behavior.
the case. No, I said the objective facts of the case are that 3 men chased a minor. I didn't say an offender, a family offender, and a repeat offender.
Those aren't the totality of the facts. You're just selecting for those ones specifically because you're using very cultivated language, which is odd.
I'm not. You're the one that's trying to reduce speculation. I'm in no way trying to speculate in all the how or the why. I'm telling you what happened.
Did anything happen before the events that you described?
Yes, multiple recordings from multiple different angles, multiple different witnesses, explaining not only Rosenbaum's threats to the group and Rittenhouse himself, not to mention the weapons that were within the crowd, including the ones that were on hand for a chain and a bag full of homemade chemical devices, not to mention an explicit confrontation.
In so much euphemism that I genuinely don't understand which series of events you're referring to here. The reason why people are talking about it...
You obviously haven't watched the case where they have demonstrated... it's almost getting to the point where they were just being redundant because they were just driving the point home, like this guy self-defended himself. He was a Christo-fascist that was hanging around a bunch of Proud Boys that was on a roof. The only people that I've heard speculate guilt...
Wait, hold on. You're jumping all over the place. The Proud Boys, that was after he was released, right? He was in the bar with them? You're there's a bunch of different... I have
in no way from either side said anybody's motives. I have like I said, always objectively to what has happened in the case. I have in no way supplanted premeditation other than what is on tape that I can reference.
Your question was, why aren't people talking about why chased Rittenhouse? The answer is that's not what the case is about. I don't know what relevance that has.
Yeah, that's what proves self-defense. Like that's definitely a part of what it is. They've built it up into their cross-examinations and everything.
Wait, that's
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean,
okay, yeah.
So please.
Yeah, wait, okay, that's not what proves self-defense. Self-defense isn't proved by the fact that a court case that we're examining isn't asking why 3 people chased Rittenhouse. What are you talking about?
That is the measuring stick for which you define self-defense. You would have to build a narrative. You would have to
by whether we're
have
talking
that
about
narrative
their
supported
behavior?
by evidence.
Yeah, okay. But we're not even talking about that. I like, what are we? Okay, wait. Are we moving on to the morality of Rittenhouse? Let's go to that. Okay.
Let's do that.
Let's.
Yeah. I mean,
that was.
What I would like to hear what Hake has to say, to be honest, and then counterpoints as well.
Yeah, but Riley was trying to say something quick, so I wanted to make sure.
I'm down with Riley as well.
I was just confused because it seems like, all right, you might not be saying like, oh, this is what their mindset is, but when you present facts like, oh, they had a bomb, oh, they were at places X, Y, and Z, like it certainly seems like, even in like a legalistic sense, that you are certainly insinuating what their mindset is. So I feel like it's not like to say that like, oh, I'm just presenting all these facts and saying like, oh, well, you know, I'm not saying that they have this kind of mindset. Like it seems like you're certainly at least insinuating it.
I'm going by what their actions, not what I like think they were thinking or the level of malintent that they had.
Right,
I'm going like evidence shows.
We're not idiots, all right? We know what this is supposed to paint the picture of, okay?
Okay. Can we move on to the morality of Rittenhouse? Anybody want to take the staff on that? Because we have about 30 minutes left on this topic.
I think he was unbased and cringe-pilled.
I think he was a part of a dingus group that, you know, they were doing what they could lawfully, but I think that they set a minor up in a terrible situation. You hear throughout the story that his people weren't even with him most of the time. It seems as though they were kind of doing their own thing, and they were more so using him as a, hey, go over here and put this fire out. Hey, go over here and help this person, you know, with a thing. And or were they under the, you know, speculation that he was 19 years old? He lied and said he was an EMT. All of this, to me, and my subjective, you know, builds the point of being a dingus, you know, but it doesn't give the right to attack you. Anybody else the right.
Very dingus filled.
What's a dingus?
Just criminally clumsy almost.
It's an Australian dog.
Oh, true. Yeah, look, okay, so the issue that I have with this is that I feel like conservatives are often super dishonest with why they support Kyle Rittenhouse, okay? So I actually think of, like, Hake is a very honest one, right? So when Hake defends, like, Rittenhouse, it's not some principled, like, oh, him being there was a way of defending property. He calls him an angel, right? I think that in reality, conservatives tend to be really fearful about things like BLM protests, which is why we hear these ridiculous narratives about literally burning the city down, et cetera, et cetera. We have the bill, by the way, for all the BLM protests, and it doesn't even come close to a lot of other civic expenditures. So if cities were burning, we would have been paying out much higher values than that. But we fearmonger, and we build up this narrative where, you know, we need people like Kyle Rittenhouse to be avenging angels to come in there and defend our cities. Depending on how far right you are, there might be a racial element to that. That'll really depend on who you're talking to. The problem is this is bullshit, okay? Vigilantes patrolling, not even to speak of like youth or anything like that, just vigilantes patrolling protests, open carrying, to like threaten people off property is a mathematically and civically unstable and like ineffective way of mitigating property damage. If Kyle Rittenhouse hadn't gone, less damage would have happened. People died because he went there. If he had just taken the money that he spent on his guns or whatever and donated it towards whatever like community rebuilding act had taken place after the protests, he probably would have done significantly more good. We have to work as a cooperative, a group, in order to overcome admittedly difficult social challenges that we face during protests. But we can't let this warmongering law and order narrative overcome what's actually practical, because that's exactly the logic that the anti-civil rights protesters use too. They wouldn't say that they didn't like the black people having rights, because a lot of them didn't like that, but they would talk about the property damage, they would talk about the disrespect to law officials, law and order, and that's how they would justify the crackdown. So the best thing that you can do if you really care about protecting the city is to wait, be patient, and contribute to civic funds and projects to rebuild after. The best thing you can do if you want to keep black people from having rights is shut the fuck up. That's the best thing that you can do.
Okay,
Saves a lot of energy.
Can we eliminate one variable so we kind of don't have to go over it over and over again? Do we get like for the conservatives, I'm assuming, or libertarians or whatever, we wouldn't care whether or not he was 17 or 18 and carrying a gun. If he was competent with a firearm, we don't give a shit. It's brought up as a fucking talking point in order to say like, oh, this poor fucking 17-year-old kid, this, that, the other. When it's brought over by like leftists or liberals or progressives, it's brought up as a sign of inexperience, whereas a more experienced person might not have like resulted in death or great bodily harm. He was a juvenile person who stuck himself into a shitty situation. So if we have the exact same case, and then it was an 18-year-old, does this modify any of our arguments just so we don't have to go over that ground again? My answer is no. Like, based off of the perspectives, his age actually has very little to do with this.
I think it's
That's
only
more
an
an
indicator
thing than a moral
of
thing.
his mental state. That's the only thing in which it's relevant.
In my opinion, his age only affects who is the burden of responsibility on like a curfew charge or things that are not in accordance to like Kyle Rittenhouse himself specifically defending himself. Like I said, Wendy Rittenhouse earlier knowingly dropping him off, with it, that would be an avenue. But I still don't think they have really any bearings. But that to me is the closest that they have.
So but what I'm asking is this like a major moral argument that's going to change what we're talking about, or is it more like this just kind of modifies the way we perceive things for rhetoric? And the reason why I'm trying to get past it is because I think that there's like actually real things that we could give a shit about that's like more pertinent. Like, so for instance, like I would kind of wonder, like for me, let's just break this down really quick from like a conservative perspective real quick. The bad cop shootings happen. Riots occur. Cops typically, law enforcement departments typically back off. Number one, because they're most likely the perpetrators of the bad shooting if they're in the host city. As a result, they back out of like areas, they deal with themselves, they get into riot gear, they stop protecting damage. As a result, in response to a bad shooting, there's a riot, it causes property damage, and then because of that property damage, it's felt like law enforcement in turn, on top of fucking up their jobs in the first place with a bad shoot, or even if it wasn't a bad shoot, they're unable to protect the public. And so then it's up to the public to, like in this case, on whether or not their downtown areas, their commercial areas get defended. For me, I don't give a fuck. I think it's perfectly fine that if there's a riot that's going to destroy an economic hub of your city and it's based off of shitty information, then I have no moral problem with somebody rolling down there and saying like, hey, listen, I'm not here to fuck with y'all, but you're not burning down this business. And if you try to fucking take my gun from me, I'm going to kill you. Literally have no problems with that morally. So that's kind of like the crux of the argument is, do private citizens, when law enforcement is no longer present, have the ability to defend their own private property against rioters, particularly when they're not a part of this like five-head academic systemic racism argument? They're a motherfucker that has to work the next day and pay their bills.
I think I could be sympathetic to. I think I could be sympathetic to that, but I think the thing with Kyle, and especially like not just his age, I think the inexperience issue would carry on into the age of like 18, 19, 20 even. But the fact that there was just that like inexperienced guy who like frankly looks 14 at the time. But just that like having him there, and that also kind of says quite a lot about the people who were with him and who were encouraging him at the time as well.
And can I make a clarification? There's been a lot of speculation that Kyle killed people defending property. He alleges, and the defense claims, he killed people trying to take his life, being in fear of his life. If he was there to kill people, I'm trying to keep this in the frame of morality here. I mean, wouldn't he have been just picking people off if he was truly an active shooter? How come he only made contact the exact finite number that he needed to the people that were taking, in his mind,
he went there to defend property.
But to back this
offering medical aid.
But to back this up though, because this was actually one of my frustrations last year, was Vaush, you in particular, you referred to him as an active shooter, whereas like definitionally, I would like an active shooter to me is somebody who's trying to stack bodies. They're either a terrorist or they're a nihilist who wants to commit suicide by cop. They run into a public area, they kill as many people as possible. And yet we had footage within like 24 to 48 hours that was not the case. And so it seemed like there was this massive like political momentum to portray this as like a mass shooting when it fucking wasn't. It was some fucking LARPy dude who showed up to a fucking protest trying to fucking live out his fucking militia fantasy. He fucking bit off a little bit more than he could chew. He got separated from his group. Somebody started chasing him to beat the fuck out of him. He killed that guy. More people chased him down due to misunderstanding, and then he killed those people.
I think my
And that
argument was
kind of my
about
frustration.
his being perceived as an active shooter. If you're in a situation like that as a protester, you have no fucking idea whether or not somebody who just got shot in the back was shot because they because a person is an active shooter, because a person is crazy, or because a person acted in self-defense. I think the argument, I don't remember the specific terminology that I used in videos like a year ago or whatever, because I haven't really covered Rittenhouse since, but for me, it's more about the difficulties and the ambiguities surrounding, like, this is one of the reasons why the armed society is a polite society shit is bullshit. There are plenty of cases in the US where a person who, like, concealed carries or open carries will respond to some violence nearby them, and then, like, what does an onlooker see? 2 people with guns. What do the cops see? 2 people with guns. Hell, if the person defending themselves is the only one with a gun out because the other person's been disarmed or didn't draw fast enough, the cop could end up shooting the person who's defending themselves. In fact, that happened at a robbery, a store robbery some time ago, where a cop rolled up to see one person holding a gun at another, shot the person holding the gun, and it turns out that was the person legally acting in self-defense against the person who had the gun pointed at them. All of these circumstances mean that when it comes to defending property or lives, random vigilantism is just not an effective way of doing it. You said morally you don't have an issue with people taking the role of the police, and in that I agree. But the problem is police have tactics, organization, and training. And even then, I don't like how they handle things most of the time in these situations. For random citizens, like, you would need to form, like, walls, like cordon off certain areas, clearly express intent. Your goal is to avoid violence. You need enough people to form a solid blockade if you're trying to protect property or block off streets. This is really difficult to do as, like, a militia, let alone a single kid who got separated from his group.
But isn't that kind of the crux of the argument here? Because so for instance, like this was the crux of the defund the police argument last year, was that like there was motherfuckers, and I know I'm not addressing anybody in this room, but there were people like Mike from PA who basically said, I don't give a fuck what law enforcement does. They're a bunch of manipulative fucking cunts, and all the shit they do is fucking negative and toxic. So as a result, let's just slash their budget, see where it is, throw it into social programs, and if crime spikes temporarily, then guess what? We serve the greater good. But you basically see this entire, hold on, I'm almost done. Right. You almost see this entire backlash to this perspective, where basically what has happened instead is you've had the rhetoric of defund the police. It hasn't even been implemented. Law enforcement fucking backs off. COVID fucking hits, which makes everything 1 billion times worse. And now Black Lives Matter and defund the police. Excuse me, but like, have we checked out the polling on those things? Because I'm pretty sure they're both dead in the water. And I know it was fucking annoying last year to have a bunch of fucking centrist dipshits like me fucking, being like, hey guys, rhetorically, this is pretty bad. I understand what you want to do, but can you modify? Because no, please finish that question. What does this have to do with anything?
We were specifically. We were specifically talking about.
Brant, go to you.
We were specifically talking about whether vigilantism is an effective way of defending a community, and I'm making arguments for why individual vigilantism, while conceptually defensible, usually just makes things a lot worse, which is why it should be morally disencouraged. I wouldn't have a problem if it was like the Black Panther Party doing stuff like that, because they did have a near militant level of in-group organization, firearms training, stuff like that, but that's not
kill a bunch
common.
of cops? Like, what is this? What is this parallel? And then on top of that, hold on. You just brought up why. You asked why. You asked why. So do you want me to just Google that real quick? Because I'm pretty sure I can find you some articles and send them to you.
About,
but anyways.
About how effective vigilantes.
About Black Panthers killing cops?
Yeah. Wait, we're not talking about.
I just want to make a point.
Wait, hold on, wait.
I said wait. So you're gonna wait, Vaush, okay? Okay, so everyone's gonna wait for a second. So we're gonna have Connor finish clarifying whatever he is with the Black Panthers. Then we're gonna have Vaush respond. Then we're gonna throw it to Brant. And then we're gonna move on to outros on this topic, so we can move on to the next thing, because I don't want to keep you all past midnight here. Okay, Eastern Standard Time. It's closer over here. Connor.
Okay, so let me clarify why I brought all this shit up. Anyways, maybe I can make it a little bit more clear. So basically, the original thing is, why is a 17-year-old kid running around with a rifle? Okay. And we already described the sequence of events. There's a bad law enforcement shooting or a perceived bad law enforcement shooting. Law enforcement backs off. Rioters start destroying a fucking downtown area. Civilians feel like they have to do something. They sweep in order to do vigilante shit. Bad shit happens as a fucking result. So it's weird when we're on the fucking right or the fucking centrist side and we're saying like, hey, law enforcement serves a vital fucking social function. And if you want to do any kind of defund the police, you need to build your parallel structures first, or else you're going to completely fuck up the society. But then we've had leftists for the better part of a fucking year telling us, no, don't worry about it. We'll just slash defund and we'll refund fucking social services. It'll all come out in the fucking wash. And then to fucking use that. And then it's like, this is what is fucking happening. But then we're vilifying fucking militias when they're the exact fucking product of like social insecurity as a result of attacking law enforcement in the first place. All of these things are connected.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
just to be clear though,
Wait,
like you can say that you can say that
Wait, Loner. It was Vaush next.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you for confirming that had nothing to do with what I was talking about. I was just talking about why it's bad for these militia groups to go out there in response to protests. This has nothing to do with the rhetoric of defund the police or anything like that. And by the way, just to be clear, the language you're describing could literally... Hold on. It could literally be used to defend like brown shirts. You know that, right? A lot of the militant insurgency in Nazi Germany was instigated as a product of the burning of the Reichstag, the belief that communists were like destroying society and that they had to organize it. So we know that the militia groups are a product of social insecurity. That social insecurity is something that I spent a lot of time on my channel arguing against. But I deny the direct link between the defund the police narrative and that, because conservatives have been pushing that militancy and fear for decades. The defund the police thing is what, a couple of years old in the mainstream? The idea that we need like militant policing in order to protect our white suburbs from POC communities, that goes back centuries. So I don't think you can round this back to, look at these Twitter leftists, they didn't listen to me when I said defund the police was optically bad. We need to focus on what I was talking about, which is that what Kyle Rittenhouse did was wrong. It's bad. It doesn't improve society. It doesn't make the country safer.
Okay, but then what do you expect fucking people to do?
Connor, we have to wrap up, and there's other people who need to talk. So I want to throw it to Brant, and then
I'm just going to make a quick side point, that's all. And that is that law enforcement or people that are your first responders on the phone that you're calling, the dispatcher, they instruct you implicitly if you've witnessed something. I don't think I've ever heard in the history, outside of maybe Danny Glover and Die Hard, being instructed by law enforcement to take the law into their own hands, whether they know what happened or they didn't know what happened. And the evidence proves that most of the people had no idea what had happened.
Like, police
had no idea whether it was self-defense or whether this guy was just waving his gun. They could not play judge, jury, and executioner. The mob makes multiple calls to get him, cranium that boy. That is things they did not have the jurisdiction to do. That essentially, with that, built a case from the moment they said that after Rosenbaum, a second case for self-defense. That you will never be instructed by law enforcement or anyone affiliated with that to take the law into your own hands. It is something that is a reactionary system, like we're talking about going to court and proving your innocence. Like I said, you will never be... What you're basically saying, Vaush, is that vigilantism is okay as long as you're in a big enough crowd and you're a vigilante with a big crowd, a mob doing things. That's basically what you're saying whenever you say that, because the same vigilante that you could say that was running around defending businesses was confronting vigilantes that were out burning businesses, looting, rioting, making threats, at gas stations, trying to harm people that were inside of gas stations. What you're saying kind of is nonsensical, and further down the line doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Vaush, you can. That was directed at Vaush. So I kind of have to give him a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should have like large marauding militia gangs. Only that if your goal is to defend property or like a part of your neighborhood, you need a large enough number of people to coordinate, essentially like a militia shield wall. It can't be done as an individual, huh?
Or cops?
Wait, hold on.
Do that?
Yes. Or cops. I don't know why you keep... I don't know who in this panel has argued that police should have no role in maintaining safety during protests. Nobody has said that. But if you are going to engage in militia action, you can't really do it effectively as an individual. At that point, you're just a lone shooter. You need to have the organization that confers to other people a sense of authority, control, discipline, and organization. I mean, this is literally like how police shield walls function. If you just do it as an individual, lone cops are in trouble.
So we have to, Loner, would it be okay if you use your time to speak during any statement?
Hell no.
No? Okay. Well, then
That's
Loner.
all right.
Okay,
yeah.
Loner.
So, yeah, Connor, just to answer your question, like why were the people out there with their guns defending their? Well, yeah, you can make that case that people were protesting at night, they were rioting, and that's probably neither of those are really a great idea. And the cops weren't there, so that can explain why there were communities trying to defend their property, but that doesn't explain why there was an inexperienced 17-year-old there. And I don't think that's because of defund the police. The reason that there was an inexperienced 17-year-old there, and that there will likely be more in the future, is because we now have this like ecosystem of like sycophants and like LARPing enablers who are just fawning over this kid who like there was probably at least 3 times in that event where Kyle could have easily lost his life. And there are people like who are just completely ignoring that, acting like the worst fucking role models on earth, Hake being one of them, and just saying that like, yeah, we're going to elevate this person and we're going to set the precedent that this is actually okay to do. And next time there won't be 2 people dead, it'll be 20.
Okay, but God damn it, Dylan, we're like on the verge of understanding each other. Why the fuck are we moving on? All we've done is fucking jerk each other off.
Well, because then we'd have to cancel one of the topics.
Your show, bro. I love you.
Yep. Connor, this is what I'll do. I'll let you respond. And he also mentioned Hake, so I got to give Hake a chance to speak as well. So Connor, Hake, then we'll figure out. Okay, you know what? We'll let it go and we'll just see what happens. Okay. You know what? We'll make this a Democrat-run city for a little bit. Okay, Connor, you go.
Sounds great. Thank you. So no, I know. Okay, so the point is, like, I feel like we're on the fucking verge of figuring this out here, where we can actually communicate to each other, probably for the first time in fucking 2 years. Okay, like that. Why do these people feel animated? You could say it's propaganda. You can say it's bullshit. You can say that it has nothing to do with reality, that they're just being propagandized and they're only watching Fox News. But to these motherfuckers, when you walk down the fucking street and you see stores getting robbed and stolen and burned and looted and all that kind of shit, it doesn't matter if it's fucking $500,000 or if it's $2 billion worth of fucking damage. It's happening within their community. Like, people do not understand systems from an individualistic perspective. So to be like, I have no idea why Kyle Rittenhouse felt the way that he fucking did, that's weird as shit. And on top of that, as like naturally empathetic people, like I've had no idea how you can't even put yourself in the shoes of a motherfucker that basically sees bad shit going on in his community and feels like he needs to do something in order to step up and stop it.
I don't
Lumi, you seem fucking animated. I would love to hear your opinion.
It's not his community. You keep saying this is his community.
Dylan, you've been waiting for this shit all fucking night. Lumi, can you please expand on why it's not his community? I would love.
Everyone is a cop in
came from an entirely different place, which is something that Antifa gets targeted.
Do you know where? Okay, hold on, no, fuck this. We've been waiting for this all night. Do you know where Antioch, Illinois is?
1 hour from the border of.
No, it's 15 minutes. Do you know where Kenosha is? 15 minutes away. Do you know where Kyle Rittenhouse worked?
Did he work there?
He worked in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He traveled there every fucking day.
Okay, that's fair. I'll concede that.
Also,
wait,
his dad lived there. His entire family lived there except for his
Brant.
Sorry.
There we go. Law and order. Okay, I'll let you be a Democrat for a second and see what happens. Okay, Lumi. Sorry, I didn't even get to hear what you said. What were you saying?
No, I just conceded my point.
Okay. So next was okay, Connie. Okay, I'll let you continue for a tiny bit more, but I gotta give it to Hake.
It's
very patient.
points. You want people to fight about what's going on. I'm giving you what you want, Dylan. Let me love you.
I haven't noticed this before. Why is Connor shadowboxing with me? He keeps bringing up.
The point of this is that I understand all the fucking lefties and liberals and progressives on this panel are super fucking reasonable and they're giving us all the rational fucking talking points. But at the same time, this is not what anybody has experienced for the past fucking year. We've heard that talking point. We've heard other talking points. He's a white supremacist, white nationalist, neo-Nazi who went down intentionally into Kenosha, Wisconsin in order to kill fucking black people.
And not
No.
like
No!
can you not do the LCTR fan? Wait, there's nothing more boring than somebody being, well, I know that you all have made good points, but somewhere on Twitter I know. Like, yeah, we know, obviously. Discourse is going to be
made these points in
Which
the
wait,
past.
hold on.
Stop
At what
making them known.
you've ascribed one point to me and you misremembered it. What other point do you have?
I didn't misremember shit.
Do you want me to substantiate the white supremacy thing? Because I'm pretty sure all I said was that he was part of like a, or like after the Proud Boys stuff, like the Proud Boys are a white supremacist org. I can't believe you would like hold water for them like that. But why
How
are you
are they
like
white
even
supremacists with an Afro-Cuban leader?
Thank you.
we don't-
The
we
best
don't wanna-
counter argument
Do
you
you
have is like are you like wait,
Cosmic
hold on really
Friends are
quickly.
white supremacists.
Connor, if you want, you can find the debate that I had with Destiny a year ago and you can watch it and get angry responding to it, okay? But we're here now, live, presently. I don't know why you keep trying to defer to this imagined collective of lefty perspectives.
Because I literally deal with it every fucking day. And
You're
I know
on this
for a fact-
panel. This panel.
Okay, and by the way, I'm pretty sure if we clip this out and stuck this out into your fucking fan base, y'all are gonna get fucking crucified, or they're gonna say, "Oh wow, that was the right optical choice to go in super fucking mellow on this shit." So no,
My fan base
like,
is
this
totally
not-
fine with what I'm saying right
I mean,
now.
Vaush has already posted a video in Cal right now saying all the same points. I've just got fucked on Twitter for doing the same thing. You were there, Connor.
I was there. Thank you for
Riley's
standing
had
up
plenty
and
of
getting
run-ins
fucked.
with
It's a little
left-wing
weird you would
shitheads,
just
so-
randomly accuse me of being duplicitous with my audience when all the positions that I'm holding right now are consistent with other streams and videos that I've put out over the past like couple of months. Like,
Okay,
where's
then-
this
then
argument
it's
coming
really, Okay, then it's coming from a year of frustration with people saying that they don't have to fucking worry about how defund the police is going to be perceived optically. They don't have to worry about how BLM is going to be perceived optically. That it's just a little bit of rioting. That fucking, we can excuse it and this, that, the other way. Progressive and fucking centrist media like CNN and fucking MSNBC in the defense of fucking rioting. Literally the fucking meme standing out front of a burning fucking building and saying,
This is like
peaceful.
every BLM talking point that's ever been brought up in the past 18 months. We're on a panel with other people right now.
How do you not understand it?
Understand what? You like dragging this out into every talking point ever associated with the subject? Understand what? What do I fail to understand?
Okay, so actually you agree. So just to
Wait,
clarify
wait.
what you're
What do
saying
I
right
not
now.
understand?
To
Wait,
clarify
really,
what you're
please,
saying right
please,
now.
what do I not
right
understand?
now, you have the centrist position from a year ago. That's your current position, is the centrist position a year ago.
I don't know what centrist position. My position is my position. My positions change with time, but I think that most of what I'm saying now is consistent. I'm pretty sure that with the defund the police stuff, I was cautioning about optics a lot.
Okay, and by the way,
Wait.
Well, I just want to know what I'm wrong
means
about.
you're not, Dylan.
What do I not
Connor,
understand?
Wait, both of you. Okay. So, Connor, you're gonna ask a last question, and
Wait,
Vaush
can
is gonna
I ask the
respond, but
question?
then we have to move on to Hake, or I gotta cut out the last topic.
I need
which
the
people
answer to
prepare
this,
for
like,
these things, so I don't
'cause
wanna,
you've done this several-
take away their time and research.
You've
Okay,
done.
so
Oh, I got
so
muted.
Vaush.
Oh, now.
Okay, so Vaush, it's weird being talked to about being too fucking edgy or too fucking hyperbolic when it seems like you have a historical pattern when it comes to content of seeing things that happen, reacting to them live, having hyperbolic language within 24 to 48 hours, and then being forced to clarify. So right now, since your position is what my position was the day after the shooting, and it's taken you about a year to get here, or you had an enlightenment 1 month in, and you fucking switched your
What
fucking
position?
Are you committing now to the next time that there's a controversial shooting that you're just going to withhold your fucking hyperbole until all the fucking facts are out? Or are you going to do the fucking
Also, like, wait, hold on, wait, really quickly.
Fucking,
First of all, really quickly, just so you know, it's super weird and obsessive for you to be like, a year ago you had a debate, your positions are different now. I was really ready to argue with that version of you that I had in my head. It's really, wait, hold on. First of all, it's
that fucking radicalizes
hold on,
motherfuckers. Are you
hold on.
Wait,
Connor, wait, he needs to
Connor,
let me
you gotta
finish. Okay.
Vaush- Yeah, you gotta let him finish, and
He's-
then we gotta move on to Hake.
He's arguing
Really
with like
cute.
multiple timelines of Vaush right now. Okay.
I'm
here.
arguing
I'm
with
here
your
now, Connor.
content.
Connor, I'm
Okay,
here now.
just muted.
You can argue with the positions that I have now. Can you please tell me what I've changed my mind on? Because you keep saying I don't understand this, I'm wrong about this. What have I changed my mind on?
Okay, so do you think law enforcement officers are trained to plant evidence on citizens?
What?
Okay, I'm just gonna start linking you your own content.
Wait,
I'm just gonna start.
Are you? Wait, have you just like watched every video of ever? I think one time in a video I said
your videos.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. What does this have to do with the subject of the conversation we're currently having?
You are part of the hyperbole
Oh my God.
radicalizes
He's showing
young people
political
into
bias.
Stupid fucking perspectives.
So you don't
That's
actually
what I'm
have.
saying,
So wait. With regards to the subject we're discussing, what do you think I'm wrong about or changed my mind? I don't think there's anything wrong with changing your mind, but like, let's say, what have I changed my mind on?
Okay, so what have you changed your mind on? I would say the fucking narrative in the wake of this shooting in particular, you're completely fucking different than you were fucking 24 to 48 hours ago.
What am I doing? Wait,
after the shooting, and then basically.
So over the past
48 hours after the
year,
shooting.
My opinions have changed, possibly.
Are you
on what?
Okay. You know what? Fine. You win this interaction,
Dude!
I'm literally just gonna start linking every single one of your fucking hyperbolic videos.
Why?
In the group chat right now.
What?
Because
Okay.
you're
Holy
partially
shit! The
responsible for
obsession.
fucking hyperbole.
Is that
The obsession. I debate in Twitch politics. I'm on a panel 3 times a week. I debate you, Destiny, fucking RGR.
Why not talk
Lumi.
with the points I'm having right now?
You weren't supposed to be debating with me, by the way.
Fucking cute, Vaush, right now. You're cuddly. I want to give you a hug. Where's my firebrand anarchist that hates Kyle?
Exactly.
Connor,
all the political bias.
Connor,
Where did it go?
Connor,
Vaush?
Connor.
I can
Wait, no, hold on. Wait,
Okay,
please. This is so directed at me.
Okay,
Hold on,
okay.
You know what?
Connor.
I'm disappointed.
Wait, stop.
Connor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Connor,
10
legit.
seconds.
Your interactions with Destiny have made you stupider. You're arguing with an imagined version of myself in your head. You gotta chill, okay? It's gonna be okay. The fact that we have this whole conversation and you can't point to a single thing that I'm wrong on or have changed my mind about relative to this panel, but you're still seething over this, is indicative of actual like obsession. You need to calm down, okay? I think you're a cool dude, but this is really fucking weird.
Okay, Hake.
I believe that this whole thing is about getting rid of conservative, white, Christian males, especially if they're Trump supporters. This is America. You have the right to carry a gun anywhere, pretty much anywhere you want.
God.
We need to unbrainwash people.
Damn, I didn't know
about
Connor
guns,
was that
unlike
far
what Eric
gone.
Holder wanted
Holy
to do,
shit.
who was the attorney general. If you're defending yourself or your home or your business, you are your own militia. I was at vigilantism. Kyle was not inexperienced in handling that rifle.
Holy
he handled that
fuck.
rifle very well. Yes, Counterpoint made a good idea, good statement that maybe he shouldn't have gotten separated from the group. I don't know how that happened, but he's offering medical support to others. He's putting out fires, and because he has this boyish innocence and he's just doing the right thing, it enrages Rosenbaum to go after him. So I'm not sure that anything bad actually happened in Kenosha with regard to Kyle's interactions with these people. Helpful, well-disciplined young man with that innocence successfully defended himself against violent attackers who were enraged at the sight of a gun, enraged at the sight of a young man who was upstanding and defending his community. He had been cleaning up graffiti earlier in the day. The issue is we have a country that's like brainwashed into thinking that this BLM thing is a good thing, that the civil rights movement was valid, that blacks in America don't have rights. Give me a break. They're if anything, we treat them too well. We treat them in a way that's unjustly.
Say it, King. Let it out.
Letting them get away with murder, and it's wrong. It's making, and blacks are suffering, by the way, for that. Black on black crime is out of control, and then we're pretending that Kyle is a problem. It's pathetic, and it's a lie. Vaush is phony.
Anyone else want to drop the white supremacist argument now? It's fine.
Vaush,
Great.
that
I'm
was
super
directed
happy
towards
we
you,
landed
so
on
you
that.
can respond to that.
No, that's okay. I wish it just was a closing arguments. Oh god.
Okay,
Mine will
then you
take
can
2
start
seconds.
them.
Okay, I'll start
Okay.
them. All right. I love all people. I love white people, black people, Rittenhouse people, and non-Rittenhouse people. I love all people, and that's why I think we probably shouldn't do the militia shit, because I don't think it works that good. We should stop.
Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to RGR now.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to weigh in more on the legal discussion, just because I've been seeing a lot of people think that they are legal experts on Twitter when they are not. But I was actually reasonably happy with the way that the legal discussion went over. I would have weighed in more on the moral part, but it was already pretty spicy. So
Yeah, RGR won this discussion. I'm muted. I can
Lumiru?
Oh.
I still just can't even follow Hake up. Disappointed to see white supremacy alive and well and just vibing on the panel, you know. But that's my target here is how do we address this in our communities if we can't have these conversations and we always have to address these general leftists. I will acknowledge that I didn't speak a lot on this topic because I went in a different direction looking into it, so that's unfortunate. But thanks for the conversations outside of that.
Yep.
Oh,
Lona
can I get
Box?
one more? I'm sorry, I forgot one thing.
You can say it out the intro of the next topic.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, Lona Box?
I feel like I could do a good job like moderating counterpoints in Vaush. So I think like the steel man there was that like of counterpoints was that like what people were defending their property because people were being irresponsible and rioting and protesting at
Yeah,
night
I do like the
because
irony.
they heard hyperbolic stuff from creators like Vaush, I guess, talking about the cops. So I don't know, that maybe hyperbole leads to like people protesting in like worse ways than they normally would, but
I do like
that doesn't explain why Kyle was there. Kyle was there because
Connor
there's a really disgusting
my
culture
hyperbole
of like,
radicalizes
enabling culture
rioters
going on around
when
him.
he
and
was defending the
he's
Proud
not going
Boys
to be a better person for this. He
and
should
blaming
not be
defund the police
on a court stand like
on
suffering from
Rittenhouse, or
PTSD with
Rittenhouse
the
and defund
death
the
of two
police.
people in his conscience. He should be in school with his fucking head down a toilet. Like, but I don't know. I mean, I love Jesse Lee Peterson people, and I love fake dollar store Jesse Lee Peterson people.
Lecture fan?
What is this, closing statements or what?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I don't. I don't know. I don't really have anything. We can just move on.
Okay. Hake?
That's uncommon.
There's no such thing as white supremacy. It's a fake boogeyman made up by people who feel sorry for criminals and clamp down. It's like a mama spirit. You bully the person who's trying to be enforcing the law, who's innocent, and you feel sorry for the criminal.
Okay. Connor?
All right. So I'm happy we all landed on the centrist perspective. I'm so fucking happy that my politics have prevailed.
Oh my God, he's still doing it.
What I've learned from this panel is that white supremacy is an overblown term that basically you mean it academically, not explicitly. So we mean it in like the systemic racism way, in which color blindness might be slightly racist. In which conservatives seem to ignore disparate outcomes and don't seem to want to affect like systemic issues. That's what we mean when we mean white supremacists. We don't mean to imply that people are purposefully wearing fucking hoods and being racist motherfuckers. That's great. I'm super happy to learn that. I've just been fighting a straw man for the better part of a year. Totally cool. I'm also happy to learn that the left, basically everybody on this panel, is happy to go back into their communities and say Kyle Rittenhouse was not an active shooter. He was a dumb fuck LARPing 17-year-old, and he put himself in a self-defense situation, but he's going to be exonerated because ultimately, if you review the footage, it's a clear cut of self-defense. I'm very happy to hear that that's what you're going to go back to your audiences and say. I'm also happy to hear that you're going to go back to your audiences and you're going to say defund the police without creating parallel structures first is a toxic and fucking stupid way to advance social reform within the society. That basically what happens if you just chop up police budgets, throw them haphazardly into social institutions, and then just let the fucking cards land where they may, is going to be a counterproductive fucking mess that destroys social progress within
VDS
that
is
society. So I'm
literally a
happy that that's
disease,
going to be
guys.
said
Holy
in
shit,
your
nobody
fucking
was
spaces
talking
as well.
about any of this.
So, the good part of defund the police
He's so
is
mad, and I don't
diversifying
think I've
roles.
ever shit-talked him
Cops are
publicly.
jacks of all trades and masters of none. So it's a great thing that what we're going to do is we're going to create field social workers. We're going to train cops in de-escalation techniques and crisis intervention training. We're actually going to give cops more money. Defund the police was a bait and switch. It's refund the police. We're going to give them more money so they're better cops on the fucking ground. That way we can improve society as a fucking whole. So I'm just super happy that I've been fighting fucking strawmen and shadows and Don Quixote fucking windmills for the better part of a fucking year. And everybody on this panel agrees with everything that I just fucking said. It's awesome. I'm happy to see so much progress made.
Brant?
Yeah, the facts of the matter of the case are, as a mother dropped her 17-year-old son off with people defending their businesses legally and lawfully. He was there legally carrying a weapon on his persons. He was threatened by an 11 times convicted offender who made threats prior to and confronted him. He defended himself 3 times. We've seen now how corrupt the state can be. And what's really the thing that's tickling me pink over here is the fact that for 450 plus days, we've heard about how corrupt the state is and how the system needs to go down. But now all of a sudden we want to use the system when it benefits our political needs. And it's one of those things where I'm sitting here in the middle, and like when I first started streaming on Twitch, I was full blown ANCAP. And as I've, tried my best to try to side with either side's usage of the First Amendment right, what I watched and experienced in Kenosha Live, which I would say out of all of you, I was probably the only person to document, still have before, after the entire day's actions covered for 12 hours, covering all of the reporters, including Drew Hernandez, all the people that submitted their evidence, watching it, I didn't see any cases for First Amendment. I saw egregious, vile acts, threats, and I saw, like I said, 3 gentlemen make grave mistakes. And the third guy should be lucky that he's even alive to lie 3 times on the witness stand. I rest my case.